if you walked into a forest, and the forest rearranged itself so you could not walk back out. Same trees, same trail, same path you entered on 20 minutes ago, but different now. Wrong. The kind of wrong that does not announce itself. It simply sits there, patient and quiet, while you walk and walk, and the trees stay the same, and the light stays the same, and the path beneath your feet keeps going. But you never arrive anywhere new, and you never arrive back where you started. I have been lost before. Real lost, turned around in bad weather, disoriented in unfamiliar terrain. I know what that feels like. I know the particular sick spin of it, the way your chest tightens and your brain starts running through options faster than you can think them. What happened to me in the Aldrin Forest was not that. What happened to me was something that had a will behind it.
Sterling.
My name is Nate. I am 27 years old. I grew up hiking. My father took me into the woods before I could read. I know how to read a trail and read a sky and read the land. I am not a person who gets confused in forests. I am not a person who panics. I am not a person who sees things. I went into the Aldrin Forest on a Saturday morning in September 2 years ago for a 4-hour hike on a trail I had done 3 times before. I came out 51 hours later, and I was not alone when I came out. The Aldrin Forest sits in the northeastern corner of Vermont. About 12,000 acres of mixed hardwood and pine, old growth in the central sections, where the trees are so tall and dense that the canopy closes completely overhead, and the forest floor below is dark even at noon in summer. The trail I was hiking was called the Greer Loop, an 8-mile circuit through the forest's eastern half, well-marked, well-maintained, a trail I had done in under 4 hours twice before, and knew well enough that I did not bring a map. I had my phone with the trail app loaded, my water, a protein bar, my jacket. It was 9 in the morning, and the weather was clear and cool, and the kind of September perfect that makes you feel like the world is doing you a personal favor. I signed the trail register at the trailhead. Name, date, time in, expected time out. 1 p.m. I always signed the register. My father taught me that. He said, always tell the forest you are coming in, and tell it when you plan to come out. I thought he meant it practically. Tell someone your plans so they know when to look for you. Later, I wondered if he meant something else. The first 2 miles were exactly right. The trail was clear, and the light was good coming through the trees, and the air smelled like pine resin and cold water from the creek that ran alongside the trail in the first section. I was moving well, good pace, feeling the particular happiness of being alone in good woods, in good weather, with no obligations and no noise. I passed one other hiker going the opposite direction, a man in his 50s with a yellow pack, who nodded and said good morning. I nodded back. He was the last person I saw for 51 hours. At the 2-mile mark, the trail bends left and rises through a section of old growth before descending to a small clearing with a wooden bench where the loop turns back east. rested at that bench both times before. I was looking forward to it. I kept walking. I walked for 40 minutes. The bench did not appear. 40 minutes on the Greer Loop from the 2-mile mark should have brought me past the old growth section and down to the clearing and the bench. I knew this trail. I had done it twice. 40 minutes was right, maybe even a little generous. But the old growth section did not end. The trees stayed tall and the canopy stayed closed, and the trail kept going ahead of me, straight and clear, as if the clearing and the bench had simply been removed. I stopped. I checked my phone. The trail app showed me exactly where I was on the loop, right where I should have been, in the old growth section, approaching the clearing. The blue dot on the screen was moving correctly. The app said the bench was 1/10 of a mile ahead. I walked 1/10 of a mile, then another, then another. No bench, no clearing, just the old growth trees and the closed canopy and the trail going forward. I turned around. I would walk back to the trailhead. Reset. Something was wrong with my sense of distance. Maybe I had been moving slower than I thought. Maybe the section was longer than I remembered. I would go back to the start and begin again. I walked back toward the trailhead. I walked for an hour. The trailhead did not appear. I stopped and I stood on the trail, and I breathed carefully, the way my father taught me to breathe when something goes wrong in the woods, slow and deliberate, in and out, until the panic drops below your ability to think. I looked at my phone. The trail app showed me exactly where I was, in the old growth section, equidistant between the bench and the trailhead, which should have been a 20-minute walk in either direction. I had been walking for an hour in one direction, and according to the app, I had not moved at all. I sat down on the trail, right there in the middle of the path, on the packed dirt and pine needles, and I made myself think. Real explanations first. The app was malfunctioning, GPS signal lost under the dense canopy, the dot frozen on the screen at my last good position. That was possible. That happened. I had experienced it before. That was the explanation I held on to for the next 4 hours while I walked and walked, and the trail kept going, and the trailhead kept not appearing, and the bench kept not appearing, and the trees stayed exactly the same, and the light stayed exactly the same. That flat, gray-green light of deep forest, the light that does not tell you where the sun is or what time it is, the light that is the same at 10 in the morning as it is at 3 in the afternoon, at what I estimated to be mid-afternoon. Though I could not be certain, the sounds changed. The forest had been doing what forests do. Birds, wind in the high branches, the occasional crack of a branch settling, normal sounds, background sounds, the sounds of a living system going about its business around you. Then, between one step and the next, the birds stopped. All of them, at once. The way birds stop when a predator is close. The wind stopped. The forest went completely, totally, unnaturally silent. I stood still. I listened. Silence that pressed against my ears like something physical. silence that felt occupied, that felt like the difference between an empty room and a room where someone is standing very still and not speaking. Then, from somewhere to my left, off the trail, in the trees, a sound. A single sound, brief, clear, unmistakable. A child laughing. I am going to be honest about what I did. I left the trail. I know that is the last thing you do in a situation like mine, already disoriented, already unable to find the trailhead, and then leaving the marked path to go toward a sound in the trees. I know how that sounds, but it was a child. It sounded like a child. And the Aldrin Forest on a Saturday in September had families on its trails, and there was a child somewhere in the trees to my left, and every part of me that was a human being, and not just a hiker, said, "Go toward the child. Make sure the child is okay." I went left, off the trail, into the trees. I pushed through the undergrowth for about 30 feet. The sound had come from somewhere close. I stopped. I listened. Silence. I called out. I said, "Hello. Is someone there? Are you okay?" Silence. And then, from behind me, from the direction of the trail, the same laugh, same sound, same child's voice, as if it had moved while I moved, stayed exactly the same distance away in a direction I was not facing. I turned around. I pushed back through the undergrowth to the trail. The trail was not there. I pushed further, further, through trees that got denser and undergrowth that pulled at my legs. I turned in what I was certain was the right direction. I pushed through. The trail was not there. The child laughed again. Closer this time. Very close. Right beside me in the trees, though I could see nothing, no movement, no shape, no small figure between the trunks. I stopped moving. I stood completely still. I said quietly, "I hear you. I am not going to chase you. I just need to find the trail." Silence. Then a sound, not a laugh this time. A different sound. Small feet on dry leaves, moving away from me slowly, deliberately, like an invitation. Like, "Follow me." Every reasonable thought I had said, "Do not follow. Stay still. Stay where you are." My feet followed. I followed the sound for I do not know how long. Long enough that the light changed. That flat gray-green forest light shifted and cooled and began to fail. And I understood that evening was coming, that I had been in this forest since 9 in the morning, and now it was getting dark, and I was off the trail, following a sound in the trees that was always exactly far enough ahead to keep me moving, but never close enough to reach. At some point I stopped. I do not know exactly when. Something shifted in me, not fear exactly, but a clarity, cold and sudden, like cold water on the face. The clarity said, "This is what it wants. Movement. Keep you moving, keep you going deeper, keep you off the trail, and away from the trailhead, and away from help." I stopped moving. I sat down on the ground. Old leaves, old soil, the deep smell of the forest floor. I sat down, and I pulled my knees to my chest, and I stopped. The sound of small feet stopped. The forest went silent again. That pressing, occupied silence. I did not move. I did not speak. I did not follow. I sat on the forest floor as it got dark around me, fully dark. The darkness of deep forest at night that is complete and total. No moon reaching through the canopy. No light anywhere except the dim glow of my phone screen. Battery at 40%. I turned it face down to save it. I sat in the dark, and then something sat down beside me. I did not see it. I want to be very clear. I did not see it. What I felt was a depression in the leaves beside my left leg. The way the ground moves when something of weight lowers itself onto it. A slow, deliberate settling. The sound of leaves compressing. The feel of something close. Close enough that the air beside me changed, became warmer, became occupied. Something sat beside me in the dark of the Aldrin forest. Something I could not see. Something that breathed, slow and steady, beside my left ear. The soft, regular sound of something at rest. Not aggressive, not threatening. Simply present. I did not move. It did not move. We sat together in the dark for what I believe was several hours. I know this sounds like something a person would say to excuse what came next, but I am telling you the truth. After a while, the presence beside me did not feel threatening. It felt, in a way I have no good words for, like company. Like whatever was sitting beside me had stopped the chasing, had stopped the child laugh and the sound of small feet, and had simply decided to sit, to be near me, to wait. I fell asleep. I did not mean to. I fought it for a long time, and then I could not fight it anymore, and I fell asleep sitting up against a tree in the dark of the Aldrin forest, with something breathing quietly beside me. When I woke up, it was still dark. The presence was still there. When the light came slowly, gray and cold, the forest waking around me, I opened my eyes, and I turned my head to look at what was beside me. There was nothing there. Just the leaves, pressed down in a rough shape beside my leg. A depression in the old leaves the size and rough shape of something, not a small child. Something larger. Something that had been sitting, folded down, pressed into the ground. I stood up. My body was cold and stiff, and everything hurt. My phone, 11% battery. 7:42 a.m. Sunday morning. I had been in the forest for nearly 23 hours. I looked around, trees in every direction. No trail visible, no markers, nothing. I started walking. No direction in particular, just moving, because sitting still was done, and moving was all I had. I walked for about 10 minutes, and then the trail appeared, right in front of me, as if I had simply stepped onto it from nowhere, as if it had always been there, and I had simply not been able to see it until now. I walked the trail, 20 minutes. The bench appeared, then the descent, then the clearing, then the long stretch to the trailhead. I came out at the trailhead at 9:14 on Sunday morning. 24 hours and 14 minutes after I had signed in, the trail register was open to the page where I had signed in on Saturday morning. my entry was there. And below it, in handwriting that was not mine, in handwriting that was large and uneven, and pressed too hard into the paper, the way something writes when it is not used to holding a pen, someone had added to my entry. Below my expected time out, 1 p.m. Saturday, a single line had been added. It said, "He is ours now. We let him go this time." I stood at that register for a long time. I looked back at the trees. The trees looked back. I drove home. I have not been back to the Aldrin Forest. I have not been back to any forest that old. Not yet, but sometimes in my apartment at night, in the quiet, I hear it. Faint and brief and maybe imagined. The sound of small feet on dry leaves, moving through a room I am sitting in, stopping when I stop, waiting, as if the forest did not entirely let me go, as if what sat beside me in the dark is still sitting there, just further away now, just waiting for the next time. I called the Park Service on Monday. I reported what I had found in the trail register. A ranger went out to check. He called me back 2 days later and told me the register page had been torn out. Gone. No sign of it. He said it happened sometimes. People removed pages as a prank. He said it in the voice of someone who did not quite believe what he was saying, but had decided that what he was saying was what he was going to say. I did not argue. I did some research into the Aldrin Forest afterward. Old research, the kind that takes you into library archives and digitized newspapers and local historical records. The Aldrin Forest had its stories. Most forests that old do. Stories of people who went in and came out days later with no memory of the time. Stories of sounds that led hikers off trails. Stories of something the old local accounts called, in different ways, different words, the same basic thing, a keeper. Something old. Something that lived in the deep trees, not as an animal lives, with instinct and hunger and territory, but as a presence lives, aware, patient, choosing who it let out, choosing who it kept. I signed a trail register on a Saturday morning and told the forest I was coming in, and planned to come out at 1 p.m. and the forest, or what lives in it, read that register and made a different plan. Always sign the register. Always tell someone your plan. And if you go into a forest, an old forest, a deep forest, the kind where the canopy closes and the light goes flat and the birds know things you do not, walk the trail, stay on the trail, and if you hear a child laughing in the trees, do not follow. Do not follow. Whatever it sounds like, whatever it sounds like, do not follow. Because the forest does not need to keep you. It just needs you to keep coming back. And you will. You always will. That is what it is counting on.